High above the glittering cities of planet Luxaria, Queen Zarathia stood alone on her palace balcony, watching 3 purple moons rise in the star-filled sky. The crystal walls of her home sparkled like diamonds, but tonight they felt more like prison bars. She had everything a ruler could want: power, respect, beautiful surroundings, yet something was missing from her life. Her people, the Ethereals, were known across the galaxy for being smart and logical. They built amazing cities, created incredible technology, and solved problems that other species couldn't even understand. But there was one thing they didn't do well: show emotions. In their world, feelings were seen as weakness, something that got in the way of clear thinking. Zarathia had always been different, even as a child. She wondered what it would be like to laugh freely, to cry when sad, or to hug someone just because she cared about them. But every time she showed any feeling, her teachers and advisors would shake their heads and remind her that queens must be strong and emotionless. The loneliness had grown worse over the years. She ruled over millions of people, yet had no real friends. Everyone who came to see her wanted something: trade agreements, favors, or political support. No one ever asked how she felt, or what she dreamed about when she wasn't being a queen. That morning had brought news that changed everything. The High Council, a group of the oldest and most respected Ethereals, had made an announcement that made her heart sink. They had arranged for her to marry Prince Vextar from the neighboring Obsidian Empire. It was supposed to be a great honor, a political marriage that would bring peace between their 2 powerful civilizations. When the council members came to tell her the news, they spoke about it like they were discussing a business deal. "This union will strengthen our military position," said Councillor Thane, his voice as flat as always. "The Obsidian Empire has resources we need, and they want access to our technology." "What about love?" Zarathia had asked quietly, immediately regretting the question when she saw their disapproving looks. "Love is a luxury that rulers cannot afford," replied Councillor Vera coldly. "Your duty is to your people, not to your feelings." 2 days later, Prince Vextar arrived for their first meeting. Zarathia had hoped that maybe, just maybe, he would be different. Perhaps he would understand her need for connection, for something real beyond political convenience. But one look at him told her everything she needed to know. Vextar was tall and imposing, with dark gray skin that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. His eyes were like black stones, cold and calculating. When he looked at her, she felt like he was evaluating a piece of property rather than meeting his future wife, Queen Zarathia. He said with a slight bow that felt more like an insult than respect, "I trust this arrangement will be beneficial for both our kingdoms." She tried to make conversation, asking about his interests, his dreams, what made him happy. But every question was met with the same cold response. Everything came back to power, strategy, and what their marriage would accomplish politically. During dinner, she attempted to share a story about her childhood, hoping to create some personal connection. "When I was young," she began, "I used to sneak out of the palace at night just to look at the stars and imagine what other worlds might be like." Vextar looked at her with something close to disgust. "Childish fantasies have no place in adult conversations," he said. "We should discuss the military resources your people will contribute to our alliance." The formal engagement ceremony was held 3 days later in the great hall of her palace. Thousands of Ethereals and visitors from the Obsidian Empire gathered to witness what was supposed to be a historic moment. Zarathia wore her finest robes, but felt empty inside, according to ancient tradition. Engaged couples were supposed to perform the heart bond ritual, a simple ceremony where they would touch hands and share a moment of genuine connection, allowing their emotions to flow freely between them. It was one of the few times Ethereals were allowed to show feelings publicly. When the moment came, Zarathia extended her hand to Vextar, hoping against hope that this ritual might create some spark of understanding between them. But he stepped back, his face twisted with contempt. "I will not participate in this primitive display," he announced loudly, his voice echoing through the silent hall. "Such emotional nonsense is beneath us both. We are joining our kingdoms." Not acting like lovesick children, the rejection hit her like a physical blow. Every person in that hall watched as her last hope for connection crumbled. The whispers started immediately, some agreeing with Vexstar that emotions were foolish, others shocked by his public disrespect of their queen. That night, alone in her chambers, Saradhya finally allowed herself to cry. All the years of loneliness, all the dreams she had buried, all the connections she had been denied, it all came pouring out. She had tried so hard to be the perfect queen her people wanted, but it had cost her everything that made life worth living. She thought about the stories she had heard of other worlds, other species that celebrated love and friendship instead of hiding from them. There had to be somewhere in the vast universe where she could find what she was looking for. Genuine connection, acceptance, maybe even love. The decision formed slowly in her mind as she sat by her window, looking out at the stars in her private laboratory. She had been working on an experimental teleportation device, something that could transport her instantly across the galaxy. It was dangerous and untested, but right now, anything seemed better than a lifetime of cold isolation. With trembling hands, she activated the device, setting coordinates for a small, blue planet she had studied in her research, a world called Earth, where the inhabitants were said to be driven by emotion rather than logic. It sounded perfect. The machine hummed to life, creating a swirling portal of energy. Saradhya took one last look at her crystal palace, at the life that had given her everything except what she needed most. Then she stepped through the portal, not knowing that she was about to discover that sometimes the greatest adventures begin with the worst heartbreak. The morning sun was just breaking over the Rocky Mountains when Dr. Alex Chen heard the strange sound echoing through the valley. He had been working as a park ranger and scientist in this remote area of Colorado for 5 years, and he knew every sound the wilderness could make. This was different, a deep, vibrating hum followed by what sounded like thunder. Even though the sky was perfectly clear, Alex grabbed his hiking gear and headed toward the source of the noise. As someone who studied unusual phenomena in nature, his curiosity always got the better of him. He had discovered new species of plants, documented strange weather patterns, and even found meteorites that taught him about space. But nothing had prepared him for what he was about to find. The crash site was unlike anything he had ever seen. Instead of burned trees and scattered metal like a normal aircraft accident, there was a perfect circle of flattened grass surrounding what looked like a vehicle made of materials that seemed to shift color in the sunlight. The craft was about the size of a small airplane, but its smooth surface and strange design made it clear this wasn't built by any human technology. That's when he saw her. The woman, if she was a woman, was lying unconscious beside the craft. Her skin had a slight blue tint and seemed to glow softly in the morning light. Her hair was long and silver, moving gently even though there was no wind. She wore clothes that looked like they were made from liquid starlight, somehow both elegant and practical at the same time. Alex's first instinct was to call for help, but something stopped him. If this was really what he thought it was, first contact with an alien species, then involving the government or military could turn this incredible moment into something dangerous for both of them. Instead, he knelt down beside her and checked for signs of life using his basic medical training. Her breathing was steady but shallow, and her pulse felt different from a human's, faster and with an unusual rhythm. When he gently touched her shoulder to see if she would wake up, her eyes suddenly opened. They were the most beautiful eyes he had ever seen, deep purple with flecks of gold that seemed to dance in the light, but they were also filled with fear and confusion. She tried to sit up quickly and immediately winced in pain. Alex held up his hands to show he meant no harm, speaking in the calmest voice he could manage. "Hey, it's okay. I'm not going to hurt you. You're safe, of course." She couldn't understand him at first. She spoke in a language that sounded like music mixed with wind chimes. But Alex noticed she was wearing what looked like a small device on her wrist. When she touched it, the device began glowing, and suddenly her words changed to English. "Where am I?" she asked, her voice carrying an accent unlike anything he had ever heard. "What happened to my ship? You're in Colorado, on Earth," Alex replied, still amazed that he was having this conversation. "Your ship crashed in the mountains." "I'm Alex, and I found you about an hour ago. Are you hurt?" She looked around, taking in the alien landscape of Earth's mountains and forests. "Earth," she repeated softly. "I made it to Earth." Then her expression changed to worry. "My ship, is it badly damaged?" Alex looked at the craft, which was now making soft humming sounds and occasionally flickering with lights. "I don't know much about this kind of technology, but it looks like it's trying to repair itself." Over the next few hours, they managed to establish basic communication. She told him her name was Zarathia, and she was from a planet very far away. She explained that she had fled her home world and chosen Earth as her destination, though she couldn't tell him why without becoming visibly upset. Alex found himself fascinated not just by the fact that he was talking to someone from another world, but by her personality. Despite being alone on a strange planet with a damaged ship, she showed incredible curiosity about everything around her. She asked questions about the trees, the mountains, the way sunlight looked different here, and why the air smelled like pine and snow. When she tried to stand and nearly fell over from dizziness, Alex offered to help her to his research station, which was hidden deeper in the forest. "You can rest there while your ship repairs itself," he said, "and we can figure out what to do next." The walk to his cabin gave them more time to talk. Zarathia was amazed by Earth's natural beauty, the way birds sang, how flowers grew wild along the trail, and especially how the wind felt different from anything on her world. Alex found himself seeing his familiar surroundings through her eyes, noticing details he had taken for granted. "On my planet, everything is controlled and perfect," she explained as they walked slowly along the forest path. "But here, things grow where they want to grow. It's chaotic but beautiful." At the research station, Alex made her comfortable and offered her some simple food and water. He was relieved to discover that her biology was similar enough to humans that Earth food wouldn't harm her. While she rested, he contacted his supervisor and reported that he would be conducting a solo research project for the next few weeks and didn't want to be disturbed. That evening, as they sat by the fireplace in his cabin, Zarathia began to open up about why she had come to Earth. She spoke about loneliness, about being forced into a marriage she didn't want, and about feeling trapped in a world where showing emotion was seen as weakness. Alex listened, without judgment, occasionally sharing his own experiences of feeling isolated in his work and understanding what it meant to search for genuine connection. He talked about his research, his love for discovering new things, and how he had always wondered if there was intelligent life elsewhere in the universe. "I never imagined I would find out this way," he said with a smile, "or that the first alien I met would be someone I could actually talk to and understand." For the first time since arriving on Earth, Zarathia smiled back. It transformed her entire face, making her appear less alien and more like someone he could become friends with. Neither of them knew that government satellites had already detected the unusual energy signature from her ship's crash, and that a team of investigators would soon be heading their way. Over the next several days, Alex and Zarathia fell into an easy routine. He would check on her ship's repair progress in the mornings, while she explored the area around his cabin. Her natural curiosity about Earth's ecosystem impressed him. She asked intelligent questions about plant biology, animal behavior, and weather patterns that showed she understood scientific concepts even if the specifics were different on her world. In the evenings, they would sit together and share stories. Alex told her about human culture, showing her books, music, and art on his tablet computer. He was amazed by how quickly she absorbed new information, and how thoughtfully she responded to everything from poetry to photographs of different places. On Earth, Zarathia shared stories of her own world, cities that floated in the clouds, technology that could heal injuries instantly, and spacecraft that could travel between stars in days rather than years. But Alex noticed that whenever she talked about her life there, she seemed sad rather than homesick. "Your people sound incredibly advanced," he said one evening after she had described a festival of lights that lasted for weeks on her planet. Don't you miss it? She was quiet for a long moment, staring into the fire. They are advanced in many ways, she finally said. But they've forgotten how to feel joy in simple things. That festival I described. Everyone attended because it was tradition, not because it made them happy. No one danced. No one laughed. They just observed it like they were studying it. That sounds lonely. Alex said softly. It was, she agreed. That's why I left. I thought, if I was going to be alone, I might as well be alone somewhere I could discover what happiness actually feels like. It was during these conversations that their friendship began deepening into something more. Alex found himself looking forward to her smile, to the way she listened so intently when he spoke, and to the moments when she would accidentally touch his hand while reaching for something and neither of them would immediately pull away. Zorathia was experiencing emotions she had never been allowed to feel before. The warmth in her chest when Alex laughed at something she said. The way her heart beat faster when he looked directly into her eyes. The simple pleasure of having someone who genuinely cared about her thoughts and feelings, but they're peaceful. Time together was threatened when Alex noticed helicopters flying search patterns in the distance. His emergency radio had been picking up increased chatter about unusual readings in their area. Someone was looking for something, and Alex was pretty sure he knew what it was. We might have a problem, he told Zorathia as they watched the aircraft from the cover of the trees. I think people are looking for you. The helicopters circled closer each day, forcing Alex and Zorathia to abandon his research station and hide deeper in the mountain caves. They packed only essential supplies and made their way to a network of limestone caverns that Alex had discovered during his years of exploration. The caves were hidden behind a waterfall and almost impossible to spot from the air. Being confined to the cave system brought them closer together in ways neither had expected. With nothing but time and each other's company, they began sharing their deepest thoughts and fears. Alex told Zorathia about losing his parents when he was young, how that loss had driven him to seek understanding about the universe and his place in it. He explained how his scientific work had become both his passion and his escape from loneliness. I've spent years studying life in all its forms, he said one evening as they sat by a small fire near the cave entrance. But I never really understood what living meant until I met you. Zorathia felt something shift inside her chest, a warmth that seemed to spread through her entire being. On her world, such words would be seen as weakness. But here, in this simple cave with this genuine human being, they felt like the most precious gift she had ever received. In my culture, we're taught that emotions cloud judgment, she replied, her voice soft in the flickering firelight. But being with you has shown me that emotions can also bring clarity. For the first time in my life, I know exactly what I want. What's that? Alex asked, though his heart was already beating faster because he could see the answer in her eyes. I want to feel everything, she whispered. Joy, sadness, fear, love, all of it. I want to be alive in the way you've taught me is possible. Their first kiss happened naturally, like two puzzle pieces finally finding where they belonged. It was gentle and tentative at first, both of them marveling at this new form of connection. For Zorathia, it was a revelation. She had never imagined that physical affection could be so tender, so full of meaning beyond mere biological function. Over the following days, their relationship deepened in ways that transcended the physical. They discovered they could communicate without words, understanding each other's moods and thoughts through simple gestures and looks. Alex would bring her wildflowers from outside the cave, and she would use her advanced knowledge to explain the science behind their colors and sense in ways that made him see familiar things as miraculous, but their happiness was shadowed by a growing problem. Zorathia's communication device had been picking up increasingly urgent messages from her home world. Her ship's automatic systems had been sending status reports back to Lixaria, and her people now knew where she was. They're demanding that I return immediately, she told Alex as she translated the latest message. The situation with Prince Vextar has gotten worse. He's claiming that my disappearance proves I'm mentally unstable, and he's using it as an excuse to threaten war against my people. Alex felt his heart sink. He had known this moment would come, but he hadn't expected it to arrive so soon. What will you do? Zorathia looked torn between two worlds, literally. If I don't go back, millions of innocent people could die in a war that's really about one man's wounded pride. But if I do go back, she couldn't finish the sentence. You'll have to face everything you ran away from, Alex completed gently. She nodded, tears forming in her eyes for the first time since arriving on Earth. I'll have to pretend to be the emotionless queen they expect. Marry someone who despises everything I've learned to value, and give up the only real happiness I've ever known. That night, they held each other close, both knowing it might be their last time together. Alex fought against the urge to ask her to stay, knowing that her sense of duty to her people was part of what made him love her so deeply. I have an idea, he said suddenly, sitting up in the dim cave light. What if you didn't go back as the same person who left? What do you mean? You're not the same queen who fled Lixaria, Alex explained, his excitement growing as the idea formed. You've learned things about leadership, about strength, about what it really means to care for people. Maybe instead of hiding those changes, you should use them. Zorathia considered his words carefully. You're suggesting I challenge their entire way of thinking. I'm suggesting you show them a better way, Alex said. You told me your people are logical above all else. Prove to them logically that a leader who understands emotions is more effective than one who ignores them. The next morning, Zorathia made her decision. She would return to Lixaria, but not as a defeated queen running home with her tail between her legs. She would go back as someone who had discovered a new form of strength, one that her people desperately needed to learn. As they prepared to leave the cave, Alex made a decision of his own. I'm coming with you, he announced. Alex, no, Zorathia protested. It's too dangerous. You don't understand what you'd be walking into. Maybe not, he admitted, but I understand you. And I understand that love means standing by someone when they face their biggest challenges, not just during the easy times. They emerged from the caves to find her ship fully repaired and gleaming in the morning sunlight. As they approached it together, Zorathia felt a mixture of anticipation and fear. She was going home, but she was also bringing home something her world had never seen before, proof that connection and emotion could make someone stronger, not weaker. Alex marveled at the ship's interior as they prepared for departure. Everything was smooth, elegant, and far more advanced than anything humans had created. But he also noticed it felt cold and impersonal compared to his simple cabin in the woods. Are you ready? Zorathia asked as she initiated the launch sequence. Alex took her hand and squeezed it gently. As long as we're together, I'm ready for anything. As the ship lifted off from Earth's surface, both of them looked back at the blue planet that had brought them together. Neither of them knew they were about to change the course of galactic history. The journey to Lixaria took 3 days, during which Alex got his first real education about interstellar politics and the complex situation they were flying into. Zorathia explained how Prince Vexar had spent the weeks since her departure building support among both his own people and some of the ethereal nobility, who believed she had brought shame to their species. He's claiming that my emotional breakdown and disappearance prove that I'm unfit to rule, she explained as they traveled through hyperspace. Some of my own advisors are starting to agree with him. Then we'll have to prove them wrong. Alex said simply, show them that what they call weakness is actually strength. When they arrived at Lixaria, the planet's beauty took Alex's breath away. Cities of crystal and light stretched across continents, connected by bridges that seemed to be made of solid rainbow. Ships moved through the air without making a sound, and the whole world had an organized perfection that was both impressive and somehow sterile. But there was no time to admire the scenery. They were immediately surrounded by ethereal security forces and escorted directly to the palace. The mood was tense. Alex could see it in the way people moved quickly and spoke in hushed tones. In the great hall where Zorathia had been rejected just weeks earlier, she now faced a tribunal of her advisors, high-ranking nobles, and representatives from the Obsidian Empire. Prince Vextar sat at the center of it all, his expression smug and confident. Queen Zarathia, spoke Elder Counselor Thane, his voice echoing in the massive space. You have brought disgrace upon our people by abandoning your duties and fleeing. Like a coward, Prince Vextar has graciously agreed to overlook this episode. If you submit to psychological treatment and proceed immediately with the wedding. Alex watched Zarathia straighten her shoulders, and he could see the queen she had become, not the broken woman who had fled, but someone who had learned to combine strength with compassion. I did not flee as a coward, she said, her voice carrying clearly through the hall. I left as someone who was suffocating under expectations that served no one, and I returned as someone who has learned what true leadership actually means. Prince Vextar laughed coldly. You return as someone who has been contaminated by inferior species and their primitive emotions. Look at you. You even brought one of them here as proof of your weakness. This was the moment Alex had been preparing for during their journey, standing up slowly. He addressed the assembly in the calmest voice he could manage. You call emotions primitive, but let me ask you something. When was the last time your people created something beautiful just for the joy of creating it? When did you last solve a problem through inspiration rather than just calculation? The hall fell silent. These were questions that no one had ever dared to ask. Zarathia stepped forward, building on Alex's words. This human, this supposedly inferior being, taught me that strength doesn't come from suppressing what we feel. It comes from understanding our feelings and using them to connect with others, to inspire them, to lead them towards something better. Enough. Prince Vextar stood up, his face twisted with anger. I will not listen to this nonsense any longer. Either you submit to treatment and marry me immediately, or I will declare you mentally incompetent and claim the throne through right of conquest. Then I invoke the ancient right of single combat. Zarathia saw